What's up, y'all? Just before we hop into this sweet podcast with a current pipeline student, I want to talk about how he was supported to get where he is, mainly with attackleet.com. That's ATACLETE.com. Check them out. Selection starts here is their motto. You know why? Because this is how, if you're serious, you're going to start training for any number of communities. Of course, we're focused on AFSPECWAR here. Their bestseller, they've got an AST essential pack. If you want to be a rescue swimmer, if you want to be Marine Recon, they've got weight vests, they've got fins. You can buy stuff a la carte. They've even got tactical smartwatches, which are dope. They're really awesome. Go to attackleet.com. Use code OnesReady at checkout. You'll get a sweet discount. You can get literally everything that you need. If you don't have a single piece of gear to your name and you want to go to any assessment and selection, check out attackleet.com first. Use our code OnesReady at checkout and make sure that you get every single piece of gear that you're going to use for your entire time and whatever pipeline you choose. Once again, attackleet.com. Use code OnesReady at checkout. Now on to the podcast, current student. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. It's Aaron in the OnesReady team room. I have a little treat, a little tasty treat for you. Why do you come to OnesReady? Because we have accurate, relevant, current info. Who knows better than a student going through right now? My boy going through the AFSPECWAR pipeline. What's up, man? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Aaron. I listened to you guys before shipping, so this is like an unreal experience to be on here and be with you. It means a lot, so thank you.
Absolutely. We appreciate that. And you're going to find out through the course of this conversation, I'm an idiot and you should not have listened to me. And it's really just a testament to your grit and your fortitude that even though you had to listen to me beforehand, you still made it as far as you can. Why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
Yeah. I'm 25 years old. I graduated college in the fall of 2020. And I was looking for jobs and whatnot. Wasn't the best time to be looking for jobs. I had an engineering degree, just couldn't land anything. And around April of 2021, I just decided to look elsewhere. And elsewhere was the military. I didn't know what branch I wanted to do. I didn't know like anything about anything at that point. But I just reached out to some of my buddies I knew who have served in the Army or the Marines. And I was like, what branch? I know you were in this. Like, what should I do? What should I do? And they were like, Air Force or Navy, 100%. And I was just
nice.
Like, okay. Well, I don't want to be on a ship. So.
All right. So the process narrowed itself down for you. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's an awesome non-standard story. So you had an engineering degree and you decided to enlist. First of all, the engineering degree, nerd, what's up? But you're also a little bit older. So you had that college experience behind you. You had the engineering degree. I imagine, we're in the grips of COVID and the lockdowns and all that other stuff. And you're looking for a job and you just found your way somehow to AFSPECWAR. So I love hearing that you looked at everything and you got some good input. And I say this as a proud, Army family member. 3 of my younger brothers in the Army, right?
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Got 2 pilots and a cyber warfare nerd brother, all in the Army. But I will say, man, I think you made the right choice. It just is better on this side of the fence. How did that process work? Like you hit a recruiter up? How did you do it? Yeah.
So like I said, I didn't know anything. Like I remember my last semester of college, I went to just the airforce.com, took a test of like all the careers or like what I would fit into. I didn't even know I would be doing this at that time. I just wanted to see like, oh, what jobs do they have? And then like you have to sign up for that. And I put my email in and then lo and behold, a recruiter reached out to me and I'm like, I'm not really interested in this. Like, what do I say? But yeah, once I like fast forward to April when I realized I was going to do this, I texted him back saying like, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to talk and whatnot. And this was just a conventional Air Force recruiter. It wasn't a special warfare one. And he's like, all right, come down and let's talk.
Nice, man. That is awesome. So you ended up finding yourself a way to get to the special operations recruiter. How'd that initial conversations go?
So I didn't actually meet the special warfare recruiter until my first pass test, which is now the IFT. I did most of my paperwork through the conventional recruiter, and he was just a lot closer to me, and all that stuff just worked out a whole lot better.
Okay. I'm going to protect you from the comment section here. Do me a favor, move your mic like 6 inches further away from your face, because if they hear you have that little vocal fry, you're going to have to, from a guy that lives in the comment section only to get flamed. I'm telling you straight up, you just got to be careful. So
appreciate that.
No problem. This is, just remember, when you go through the pipeline completely, you're going to be like, one time a PJ gave a shit about me and how I felt. And this is it right here.
I'll remember that.
It's never going to happen again. So you finally got to the SPECWAR recruiter. What was your fitness level and your preparation like? Because you came into this blind. You didn't even know that your career field, the one that you're trying out for, you didn't know that it existed. You didn't have really any insight into AFSPECWAR really. So were you a prior athlete? How was your fitness level? Like what challenges did you face right out the gate?
So this is where it gets really interesting. In high school, I did play football. I was a defensive lineman, average, like nothing crazy. I'm about like 6 foot. So
shout out to average athletes everywhere. What's up?
Absolutely.
I'm a problem in a rec league, but if you're actually playing for like actual things, like, nah, I'm not good at all.
Absolutely. And so like, I did have a sports background, but with football, it was like all power and strength and whatnot, never endurance. So like running was never for me. And then throughout college, I just threw all that out the window. I didn't do anything. I gained a lot of weight, was just very like conceited in myself. I just played a bunch of video games, studied, rinse and repeat. And at my heaviest, I was around 240 pounds. So
get it. That 2.5, baby. You out here.
It was disgusting. It's hilarious to like show some guys on my team right now, like old pictures of me, and they're just like, what?
They're just disgusting. I love it too, because I guarantee you the first thing that they did is like, oh my God, you're a disgusting fat body. Like,
and that's what I say to myself too.
I use that. J-Mac, I don't know if you like J-Mac the Crow, that's a good friend of ours. J-Mac was also a fat kid, and that drives him. He does like ridiculous crap now, like 50 milers. He just did another Ragnar, so like a 24-hour team race that he just does.
Gosh.
But he literally will shame himself and just be like, "You'd like that, fatty? Oh, you would like it's hilarious." And I guarantee your teammates are the first dudes that are just like, "Look at your disgusting fat self." And by the way, I hope we do get canceled for fat phobia, because being fat is unhealthy and disgusting. I said, get over it. So from 240, you decided you had to make a change and you had to get ready for this thing. How, like, I imagine that you got into development sessions pretty much right away. How was your, I guess, experience in that T3I development session, if you had them?
Yeah, so I started losing weight a little before that. My last semester of college, like, it took a while, but I was probably getting to around like 220 and below. And then by the time I graduated, like, I was still working on it and stuff, but like just for a mile time, I was probably around like 8 minutes or something. So that first pass test was a real, like, just my ego went down. But
wake up call, right?
Absolutely. But like, I thought, you know what, seems interesting. Like, special warfare seems like a great job. Let's give it a shot, you know?
Yeah.
And I just kept coming back to the pass test or IFT each month. And I saw my results improving like each and every time. And I was just super nervous to take them, because I thought, all right, I just did a whole nother month of working on push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, running and swimming. Like, what if I do worse this time? And
what a crazy, that is such a good point, man. And that's something we don't explore a whole lot, but there's a lot of anxiety in that.
Absolutely.
You know, what if I just wasted a month?
Yep. But every time I did better than the one before. And I remember my first pass test was, I think, May 26th of 2021. 4 pull-ups. Yep. Those straight arms are just horrible.
Yeah. Hey, dog, that is not going to cut it, man. That is not the same. You were a no-go at station 1. Get your shit and go back to the house.
Absolutely not. The mile and a half was around like 11:16, and I passed the rest of the stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a grind. But
Yeah. How did you feel dropping those 4 pull-ups, man? That had to be disheartening.
well, I attempted like probably 5 or 6, but those obviously didn't count.
Okay, I'll give you you tried for 5 or 6, but the four that counted, I know how you feel. Like I was at Indoc and I was right on that line. I've told the story a couple times, but I was on that line of missing my pull-ups almost every Monday. Like every Monday, like the one thing that was my bugaboo. It's bear traps and pull-ups. Those are my 2 bugaboos. But you overcome it. You overcame and you got to a point where you could ship. How many were you doing when you shipped?
Just the bare minimum, which is not what you want. I was hitting 8.
Right. Yeah. And that was tough. And we've said it a million times. You're never supposed to tell people when you record these things because I don't know when this is going to drop. We have a ton of content. But today we just dropped what's the daily life of AFSPECWAR like, and we literally talked about it on the podcast today. We did it on a frequently asked questions, but we always exactly what you just said, man. If you're doing the bare minimum, like okay, you're ready to ship, okay, but you're gonna be anxious every time you go into that IFT. You're like, man. If I didn't sleep good, if I have a weird shoulder tweak, like if something happens, man, maybe this is the day that I fail that. Like, did you feel that anxiety when you were on that plane, on that bus?
Every single time. And even to this day, like I'm still not great at pull-ups. I'm hitting 8 to 10 on a good day. Yeah. And for the OFTs and stuff, I was just in dive school and stuff. We started off with that in the first week, and my elbow did hurt during that. So doing like 1 pull-up hurt. And I was like, oh my God, if I get sent back for not passing the OFT, I'll never hear the end of it. But
imagine getting sent back for failing the OFT. All right. So you left home. You're a little bit older. You know what it was like to leave home, but you went to BMT, and we were just talking to Sergeant Waka, that's your recruiter. So I had a great talk with him. But we talked about BMT, and people forget that 5-meter target. It's a thing in sports and in football. Man, okay, you're training for the championship game, but people forget you got to win the quarterfinal game before you make it to the championship. Yes. And you got to focus on basic training. So you could be the world's highest speed operator. It doesn't matter. You got to go to basic training, and you got to put out. I imagine that you're in one of the AFSPECWAR flights. How was that experience at basic training?
Yeah, it's just a fire hose of information at you. Like basic training is like what it is, basic military training. And
preach.
Like it is like a lot to adjust to and get used to. Like I couldn't imagine just being right out of high school, and props to everyone on my team and everyone that has like gotten through it like straight from high school, just getting accustomed to all that stuff.
Yep. I was an older dude as well, right? So I didn't get in until I was 21 years old, almost 22. I was not a grown man. I was a child. My brain wasn't even fully formed yet, but I was always astounded by those cats. I was in basic training with, a couple 17-year-olds. Yeah. And I was astounded. I was like, man, how are you getting through this? Because like I've had some life experience behind me, and you're just in here just rolling around like it's cool. Did you use, I was talking to Waka and I didn't even know, but there was the app, the Aim High app. Did you use that at all before you got in?
I did. And it was pretty nice because it kind of just gave you a little bit of information of what to know during basic, like the core values, the creed and whatnot.
Just silly stuff like rank structure and your reporting instructions. You don't think that they're like, that's going to stress you out. You're like, just whatever. No, it's freaking stressful because
that is what stresses you out.
It is what stresses out. That's the primary stressor is you call somebody by the wrong rank, or you say the dumb reporting statement incorrectly, and you're like, you get yelled at for it. You just like, that's it. It's a pain in your butt. Like you can just get ahead of it. So I'll put another plug out for that one. I didn't even know it existed, but you got through basic. Were you a flight leader? Were you like anything in the dorm?
I was an assistant to the academic guide, so
the academic guide. I love it.
I was helping him out and whatnot. I didn't have many leadership positions or anything. Okay. Everyone in my flight was like, I'd say we were pretty squared away.
That's good. And the age old question. Oh no, I'm going to get out of shape in BMT. From your recent experience, we did a lot of work to get operators down there to have talks and lead development sessions and lead that extra PT. Man, just talk to us about those AFSPECWAR training flights.
So I will say, like, it isn't the best PT, but it is a hell of a lot better than just the regular PT that goes on.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess BMT prevails. Like, what you got to learn there is what you have to learn. So you should come in like being over prepared, I would say, as far as like physical fitness. You're not going to lose it. It's at the end of the day, it's like 2 months, not even. So
sure,
you're not just going to be weak by the end of it.
Right.
And
I always laugh at those people. They're like, "Well, I'm going to lose all my gains." Like, bro, if you're worried about losing gains in a month and a half, really, where you can still work out on your own, like you weren't in that good of shape to start. Like, sorry, that's just what it is.
Exactly. And the stuff they do teach you, like, that was my first interaction with like cadre and whatnot, because we had them over from SWIC. They came out and basically just gave us some pretty good workouts. You have strength coaches, running coaches. So that's just what you have to focus on, and you push yourself during that time. Like, you get what you put into it.
Shout out. Love it. So you got out of basic training, you got that airman's coin, you got through the hardest crucible in the DoD, which is Air Force basic military training.
Oh yeah.
I guess the Marines have one, I heard. I don't know. Probably not that hard. Anyway,
not at all.
No. So then you got on that bus, you took the short ride over from BMT over to SWIC. I think SWIC, I was just talking to the NCOIC, the SEL last night. He's a good friend of mine. We're going to have him on and talk about, the things that he's changing down there. He's got some pretty good data points. Tell us about SWIC. So you mentioned the running coaches, you mentioned the lifting coaches. Man, walk us through kind of like the day-to-day and what you can expect when you're over there at the Special Warfare Candidate course.
So yeah, it's really structured there. I'm sure there's just so much behind the scenes that we don't get to see because we're just living it and whatnot. That's our life. But every day is pretty like regimented. You'll be running or swimming or working out like during the day. You have all those modalities, and the coaches there know what they're doing. Like, I know of a few guys that have never actually like truly lifted weights in their life before shipping out, and that was their like first test to it. And the coaches there really know like what they're doing in the form. So it's just, again, like same thing with basic training, getting out what you put into it. Yeah.
And then from a battle rhythm sort of perspective, you're getting up. How many workouts do you have a day?
Oh, countless.
Countless workouts.
I remember there's like a 5-ish minute video about like, I'm pretty sure Trent's on it very briefly for a clip, but it's like from 6 a.m. until 4 p.m. You're working out, you're doing push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups and stuff. So yeah, it's early days. You just got to be in it, and that's why you're here, honestly. Like, what SWIC is preparing you for what's about to come, which is assessment and selection, and just they really harp on attention to detail. And I'd say even in basic training, that's where like attention to detail really starts, because obviously you have to nitpick all your clothes and make sure everything's folded perfectly, but you're going to hear it time and time again, attention to detail.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those traits that we look for in a good candidate is we need somebody with attention to detail. You can't miss things, whether it's medicine, whether, it's precision shooting, whether it's dropping bombs, whatever you want to do. Like, man, attention to detail is important. And that's where we start honing those skills. So you selected your AFSC. So you knew, did you know you wanted to do what you're doing now? Like before you came in, where you're like, this is the job I want?
Yeah. So when I was like looking at all the jobs, and there are way more jobs than I ever like thought the military would provide and stuff. I was like, when I kind of was looking at special warfare, I was looking at like the 4 main ones and stuff. It seemed like special reconnaissance like seemed the most interesting to me. And that's what I went off. Basically, it was like, this seems the most interesting. Like, yeah, I do have a little bit of an anat and phys background from my degree, but I don't know like anything medicine or anything like that. And so pararescue might have been a second for me, but yeah, by the end of it, I'd say like special reconnaissance really spoke to me the most.
That's awesome. And then in SWIC, you actually get to declare. So you had plenty of time to have briefings and you had interactions with cadre. And then finally they were like, okay, what do you want to be assessed for? And you got to say, all right, SR is my heat and I'm going to go forward. How did that process work? Because we get a lot of DMs are like, oh, I'm not going to get the job I want. I have never heard a single story of somebody saying, I want to be whatever. I want to be a PJ, going through and putting out and doing well, and then having the cadre go, nope, sorry, you're going to do something else. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, so you actually do get to put your preferences, and it's not just your top one. You get to rank them. So,
okay,
I'm pretty sure like my first ever one, I did SR at the top, and then PJ second, CCT, and then TAC P.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure that's what I stuck with for most of it. And every time you get to like have a professional development session, you're like, oh, okay, that one sounds awesome. But I was just like,
were a lot of your classmates changing? Like, would they go to those professional development sessions? They'd be like, no, it turns out I want to be a controller.
During SWIC, yeah, like it seemed like a lot of people would switch and whatnot. And sometimes like the pool has to do something with that, but a lot of like the stories they tell and like just how they conduct, like what they say during those professional development sessions is like, okay, yeah, that really speaks to me. That sounds a lot cooler or a lot better.
Nice. Dude, that is so much better. When I went to basic training, no kidding, they put us in a room. A dude walked in, wheeled in like a big TV with a VCR, and it had like the ratchet strap on it. Like, no kidding, wheeled it in and played. It was a cool guy video of dudes jumping and stuff. And it was like, yeah, this is pararescue indoc. Anybody want to try? And you would like raise your hand, and that was it. That's essentially what we got. And then like you just randomly go to the pool on a Saturday and take a pass test. And if you passed, they'd be like, all right, tight, you're in. Like that was as much input as we had before day one of indoc. So to see how far it's come with SWIC, it's amazing. Like I've been in those spaces a ton of times. Man, there's float tanks. There's every piece of workout equipment. There's a piece of workout equipment you didn't even know existed, and it'll cause you pain. You'll be like, this is the worst thing on the face of the planet. Yeah. But the campus down there it's growing. We have smart, ex NFL athletes, world class strength and conditioning coaches, world class running coaches. We're obviously good friends with Taylor Starch, and he's done a ton for that place, and they just continue to get better. Like seeing even where it's come. Now is amazing. So yeah, props to SWIC and everything they're doing down there.
Yeah.
So now we get it. Now it's about to be real. So now you get out of SWIC, you're as good as you're going to be for the candidate course. You're as prepped as you're going to be. And you take that bus ride over to the Chapman Training Annex and you report to A&S. What was it like on your first day?
So yeah, we were on blue team. It's called down there when you're waiting to go to A&S. There's a whole bunch of colored teams and whatnot. I'll just leave it at that. So that was like a Friday, I'm pretty sure. And we started A&S on Monday, and that was our first interaction with like a coach, a T3I coach and whatnot. And we got smoked while we were down there. I'm pretty sure he had us like jump in the river, come back at a time, and
creek. Have fun.
There were already guys. You know what?
I know exactly how long it takes to get to that creek and back, even if you're fast. I know how long it takes for like 10 people. I know how long it takes for 50. And I know exactly how to tell you, okay, you have a minute and 15 seconds to get to the creek, get completely wet, and get back here. You know why? Because it actually takes about a minute and 20, and I know how to make you fail.
Every time. They just know it too well. And going uphill, soaking wet. Oh, man.
It's awful.
It's awful, but like with every smoke session or any like physically grueling thing, it's always just hilarious afterwards. Like you look at the guy next to you and you're just like, oh man, that sucked.
You're just like, what are we doing with my life? I imagine with you as a 25-year-old guy, you've already got a college degree. You're an engineer by trade, I guess. Like to get done where a high school graduate with a funny colored hat is just yelling at you and making you do physical exercise. Like to try to explain that to somebody that doesn't know about our culture and doesn't know what we do. They always have it's one of two reactions. one, they just completely don't understand it. And they're just like, I don't even know. What does that even do? And the other reaction is like, they'll clutch their pearls and be like, oh my goodness, are you guys okay?
Oh man. Yeah, it's tough to explain to people like family or friends back home. It's like you can say what happened, but I don't think they'll ever understand. Like you just have to go through it.
Yeah. It's like those team jokes that you got. Like I've laughed so hard with my friends that I cried, like real tears streaming down my face.
Yes.
And then I tried to explain why that joke was funny to somebody. And they had no clue. They're like, that is not funny at all. I'm like, well, you're an uncultured swine because that was hilarious in the moment. So you get over to ANS. We're going through. So ANS is that 4-week period, and pre-dive is the 4-week period following.
Yep.
What was your hardest part about ANS?
So a whole lot of it, like everyone knows it's physically hard. Like you could be the best athlete, but you're going to hit muscle failure at some point. It doesn't take a lot to hit muscle failure. I was actually on the lower side of the physical spectrum, I'd say. So I don't know if that's just made everything a little harder for me or what, but I learned from my psych interviews too. I guess I always kind of knew this. My self-confidence was super low, and being just low on the physical side of it, like only hurt it even more. So like I was just struggling with the mental aspect all throughout ANS. I always thought I was never performing well enough. Like, oh, geez, I'm not going to make it. And that was the real tough part of it. Like just going that whole time thinking, well, I could get through it, but I'm just not going to get selected. And that's just a strain on your mental.
That negative self-talk, that thing is, that is a bitch, my friend. That negative self-talk, because it takes energy. When you think those thoughts, it takes mental energy, both to think them, right? Which is a weird thing. Your brain is essentially a controlled chemical reaction that is firing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But it takes energy for you to get over that negative self-talk, because you know all of the worst things about yourself. No one else is thinking those things about you, but you think they are, because you know all those bad things. And man, that has to be super tough. What did you do to get out of that negative self-talk spiral?
I just thought of like my why and whatnot. They harp on that all throughout SWIC, and they even say during BMT to think of what your why is, why you're here, why you want to do this. And like I could give the textbook answer of, oh, I want to be the best I could be, and I just want to be like push myself and whatnot. And yeah, that is part of it 100%. But like you'll hear it a million more times of like just never quit and stuff. And it is more than just not quitting. You do have to perform and you do have to do well. But I just wanted to keep going, and I was like, there is no point in quitting. Like even day one of ANS, where it's like really tough and whatnot, and you don't know like what's to come, but like you just keep going, you keep pushing yourself.
Not quitting is the baseline expectation. That is not the goal. Like just not quitting is not good enough. That's the baseline expectation. That's the bare minimum. And we've said it a lot. And quitting leads to regret. Regret is hell. Obviously, shout out to Trent for coming up with that one. He's an idea man. But yeah, man, I'm just glad that you found a way to find that why. And it's different for everybody. And we can bullshit with this is my why. And I just want to be the world's best airman and whatever else. And like, my why is completely different. Like I do, and it evolves and it changes, and you have to be able to default to that. You have to be able to hold on. It has to be so intensely personal that you can hold on to it in a time where everything is falling down around you. When you've got that negative self-talk, when you're so close to failing an event, when you don't know, like even if you make it through, like it had to be mentally taxing to think I could make it through this and still not get picked up. Like,
I'll be honest, like I was debating whether I should say this or not. Like at the time I made it through ANS, and you're waiting to hear if you got selected or not. Like the night before, I made a whole list I wrote down of alternate possible jobs I could put on a dream sheet because my self-confidence was so low that I wouldn't get selected.
But here you, dude, how did you feel that next day though? Did you just throw that list away? Did you burn it? What'd you do?
God. Yeah. That thing is long gone. Like, hell yeah. That call home to my family. Yeah, definitely some tears were shed. It's just a great feeling.
Good, man. Who said, Forrest Griffin got knocked out by Keys Jardine. Keys Jardine, like, just caught Forrest Griffin. It was an older fight, and Forrest Griffin cried in the cage, and he got lambasted for it. People everywhere was like, "Oh, this guy's crying." He went on a talk show, and he was like, "You find something important enough to cry about in your life."
Exactly.
Like, this is my life, dog. Like, I put my whole life into this. I could die in that cage. You're telling me I'm not allowed to cry about it? I'm glad you shed those tears. That was probably the best. How did that phone call feel with your parents? With your family? My
gosh. Like,
get out of here.
I didn't think I was, but yeah, as soon as I heard my mom's voice, I was just like, oh my God, it's over.
That's it. You got to let it go, man. I'm here for it. I'm here for that mushy shit.
And it starts with the development sessions, I'd say. Like, you put all that time into all those workouts, and shout out to my developers. Like, he really like spoke the truth of what it's like. And like, if you come to these development sessions and you're putting in the work, and he had us do a weekly workout that was basically just a mini smoke session, like, do it for time, and you would compete with all the other guys doing it too. Like, you spend a few months doing that. It's like you put all this work in towards getting selected. Like, don't quit now. Just keep going. Keep pushing yourself.
You're right. It's months and years of blood, sweat, and tears that you put forth to this thing. And I can't remember which philosopher said it, but he essentially said, you not becoming the best version of yourself. And it was specifically about physical fitness, right? Mm-hmm. Not only is that not what you're supposed to do, but it's an affront against humanity itself. You know, you not putting that effort to be as physically fit or a good of person as you could possibly be, that's not just wrong. It's an affront. You're no kidding. You're acting against that. And you think about when you're at A&S, it's great that you brought that up, but you owe it to people to graduate. Yeah. So many people, from your recruiter to those developers to your mentors to your family, you owe it to them to give this 100%. You might fail, you might not get picked up, but you damn sure better not quit.
Definitely.
You owe them that you're going to be standing tall and you're going to get to make that phone call to your parents. But we ain't done there, because you don't get your beret at A&S. You gotta go do some other things. So
just a few things.
Just a few things. So the pre-dive portion of it, that's the next 4 weeks. How is pre-dive, and most importantly, how is the vibe different? Because I understand that there's a pretty different vibe between this is A&S and now we're in pre-dive. So how was your experience over at pre-dive?
Yeah, pre-dive is nice because it is a different environment. Like, A&S is its own beast and whatnot, but pre-dive, like, hey, you have weekends off. But the days are really long. You get up early and you're in the pool until the evening, basically. You don't get back to Chapman until the evening. So it's what our instructor, the proctor, said. Shout out to Mr. Capo Bianco.
Capo, what's up, Capo?
Yep. It's the only show in town, and it really is. Like, that's what you're doing day in, day out. It's just perfecting your craft and whatnot. Nice. But yeah, they're long days. It's on a schedule. It's the same thing every day. You're just getting after it. The first day of pre-dive was actually my birthday. And
oh wow, you didn't tell anybody, did you?
No, until after the first day, and I was like, perfect. Yeah, this is a birthday to remember.
Yesterday was my birthday. That's never like, listen, young man, if there's one piece of advice I can give you, protect that birthday. I was just talking to my friend, one of my best friends in the career field. His name's Chris Wilson. He's an awesome dude. Chris was just catching up yesterday. He's like, hey, you popped into my mind. He was like, so I'm going to tell this story. And we were at Rescue Jumpmaster together in Paso Robles. We were there for like a month. So they did this Rescue Jumpmaster course, and concurrently they were doing a tandem course and an AFFI course and all this other stuff. So you're just there jumping and JMing all day. Like it would just for a month. And he and I shared, we were in Vegas together, and he and I shared a hotel room. So during that period, my birthday was whatever. And I was like, I've never been a guy. I won't beat you up on your birthday. I think it's childish, but it happens. It's part of our culture. So I made the mistake and I was like, all right, guys, listen, I'm going to tell you something. It's my birthday today. I don't want there to be any shenanigans. I'm not asking for anything, but I'd like to go out with you guys, have a couple drinks, we were not working the next day. So we were totally good that we were all of age, it was totally okay for us to go turn up in San Luis Obispo. So we did so. I lay down and I'm about to go to sleep and I hear our door open and Chris was in the room. So I was like, oh, that's weird. And I turn just in time to see my friend Dave, it was almost like a screenshot of like a panther. And Dave is a world-class jiu-jitsu guy, and he was way bigger than me. Dave weighs like 235 or something. I think at the time that my heaviest, I was probably like 210 at that time. So not only was he way better at jiu-jitsu than me, but he just had me freaking dead to rights. I was definitely intoxicated. Dave just jumps on me. So the short story of this is that they taped my ankles from my ankles to my knees in duct tape. They had handcuffs. They handcuffed me behind my back. They put me in a luggage cart, and then they put a sheet over me so that the front desk wasn't any the wiser. They took me out back. Dave had the handcuff key and he threw it at the deep end and he was like, okay, go. And I had to drown proof and find the key. Yeah. I had to find the key. It was on the bottom of the pool to get the handcuffs off. And my friend Dave and my friend Chris and my friend Bob and my other friend Nick, they sat in the hot tub as the sun rose while I had to drown proof and find the key with a case of beer. And that is what will happen to you if you decide to tell people that it's your birthday. So let that be a lesson to you.
Oh my gosh. Well,
fantastic. Yeah. We just, it was funny that Chris was like, yeah, I was trying to explain this, to my girlfriend. I was trying to, tell her a little bit about the culture because she's totally like outside of the community. Yeah. And he was like, I was telling that story and I just laughed. So good on you for keeping that birthday secret.
Yeah.
So you got through pre-dive. How well do you think pre-dive set you up for combat dive school? Because that was the first school you went to right out of ANS, right? Because right out of pre-dive or no?
So straight from ANS, I was right into pre-dive, and that was back in May, I believe. And then ideally you go straight into combat dive school, right. But we had a giant gap to where I believe people who were already operators, they had to finish closed circuit. They didn't have it.
Right? Yeah. We had to send a bunch of dudes to that.
Yep. So they had that over the summer, and we didn't start dive until September. So we had a giant gap in between pre-dive and dive, and they're two different beasts. Obviously, like one-man confidence in combat dive is the main water confidence type training you have. So pre-dive is just all water confidence, while dive has that. You have to be comfortable with all your gear and equipment, but it's mainly learning how to scuba dive, how to do all this stuff and navigate. Right. So pre-dive almost I'd say over prepared me, even though with that big time gap. Pre-dive was such a well course, well taught, strict, but it's gotta be.
Dude, I did the same thing, oddly enough. So I was a phys tech, I was a cross trainee. I was already airborne. I already had an airborne seer, dunker, some other stuff.
Oh, nice.
So I basically got home from Indoc, and they didn't have a course seat for me right away, but they were like, we can send you to free fall. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, send me to free fall. So I actually got right out of Indoc, went to free fall, and then had to hit dive up. That was a kick in the nuts. Yeah. That was because we were still doing closed circuit, and it was still I want to say we were the second or third class at Air Force Dive. They had just stood it up.
Oh, wow.
And the class before mine, they failed about half the class. So half of my class was dudes that had just went through they had PTSD straight up. These dudes were just they're like, we are staying after school today, and we're marking our gear, and we're going to practice what we say, and we're going to practice DSPIs because I'm not doing this again. They were just, it was pretty funny. They were, they were hit up. So what schools did you hit up after ANS then? Or after pre-dive, sorry.
After pre-dive, I believe my first one was water egress at SEER, with having such a big gap in between courses, they tried to get you in as many other courses as you can to fill in time. So I went from water egress at SEER, which is the dunker, and I believe, I had the 2-day course there for the parachute and water survival, and then the resistance training as well.
Was that still at Panama City, or did you go up to Spokane for that?
That was Spokane for SEER.
Okay.
Was your SEER in Panama City?
No, I was talking about the water survival section. So you went to the dunker in Spokane. They used to do parachuting water survival down at NDSTC in Panama City and stuff. So I wasn't sure where they run it. So
was your
SEER?
SEER? SEER was actually great. The water egress, I'd say, was the most fun, and because you're coming straight from pre-dive, you're like,
you're a stud. You're like, this is exactly. Like even that. I actually took the regulator out of the SEER guy's mouth, the safety diver. That did not go over well. I thought it was a funny joke, apparently, because he was talking all this crap beforehand. He's just like, "Oh, you PJs, you think you're so good underwater?" Well, I was like, "Well, we are." So first of all, that's facts. Second of all, I was like, "You're breathing on a regulator." I was like, "You're not even doing a breath hold. You're just fat floating there." And so I accidentally swept his regulator. Probably not the best technique, but I don't know.
And nothing against the SEER guys, though. Their job's awesome, and I appreciate everything they do.
It is awesome. However, I think I'm going to get a SEER guy on just so I can make fun of them to their face. Never have a bad thing to say about SEER guys, but it is fun in the team room. Yeah. What question were you going to ask?
I was going to ask if your dive was in Key West or Panama City.
No, Panama City. It was the Air Force course had just stood up. So I think we were the third class. So there was the first class. The second class was just an absolute decimation. I want to say they only graduated like 10 students out of the 25 that started or something. And then like the 15 that got rolled back, that was like half of our class. So we were the third class. I did not go to Key West. We were still sending people to CDQC at that time, but there was a big focus on getting the Panama City dive school stood up. And then it went like we were still doing closed circuit at the time. So I was a closed circuit guy coming straight out. And they were playing around with the course curriculum and trying to make it work. So
shout out to Mr. McGinley.
Shout out. He's been there, dude. He was there when I was there. There's a couple names like those dudes just are still there. Just
gotta appreciate that.
Holler. Yeah. So SEER, I always say SEER is one of my favorite courses. So I was a regular dude. I went through it as a phys tech, and I distinctly remember when the resistance portion is over with and you're done. I distinctly remember being more proud to be an American than I'd ever been in my entire life. Like I've always said good things about that course. It is what it is, right? Like we can't really talk about what goes on there, and fine. And there's good things and there's bad things and blah, blah, blah. But I never felt prouder to be an American, really, coming out of SEER.
I'd say you said that best. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was super awesome. So SEER knocked out, cool. And then what'd you hit after that? Did you go to Airborne?
I did the Air Force Appreciation course. Yeah. When I first heard that, I didn't get it because that was before going to Airborne, and then I went to Airborne, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
And then if you think back, so that's for you probably, a year, probably maybe a year and a half, when you were deciding between the 4 branches, you got to see exactly what people are talking about with the Army. It's, get on the wires at 4 a.m. Why? Well, because you got to report to your platoon leader, who's going to report to the squad leaders what he needs them to do. And then we're going to be good for a 6 o'clock show. Like, what am I doing here? I'm throwing rocks at helmets.
No, literally. Some things never change.
No, 100%.
That was like my first experience, like meeting the other branches and whatnot. We had a good amount of Marines there as well, a few Air Force guys. And obviously mainly Armies, but it was cool to like just meet other branches and whatnot. Yeah,
it is good. There is goodness, and it's funny to see the cultures. Like, you know, you get so used to, we are so myopic when we're talking about, our culture. Like PJs are really different than Control. It's funny how the different tribes, like they're just different, right? And you look at that, well, like that's like this much. You see the Army and the Navy, and it's like, you're like, oh my God, you guys are completely different animals. Like you guys are just completely different in everything that you do. I had to go back. So I was a rescue jump master, that course that happened during my birthday. So I was a jump master for, I don't know, like 10 years or something, I don't know, like 9 years. So I was a jump master, and then they didn't require me to go back through the formal schools, because as long as you're in ACC or the schoolhouse, if you're a rescue jump master, you're fine. You can just you can do whatever you want. It's not the same in AFSPEC. So no kidding, the first courses that I took when I got here, I've been in for 18 years. So 18 years, I was a master sergeant, and they were like, hey, if you want to be a jump master, you got to go through the formal courses. And I was like, yeah, but do I? And they were like,
right.
Yeah, you do. So I was like, all right, yeah, let's go. So I had to go down. I went back to Fort Benning to go to static line jump master. And I had more static line jump master jumps than the commandant of the school, like the lead black hat there. Like,
right.
He pulled me aside after we were done. He's like, hey, can I tell you something? I was like, yeah, what's up? He's like, I have like 45 static line jump master jumps. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's awesome. He was like, you have like way more than that. And I was like, he's like, why did you have to come back here? I was like, I don't know, my guy, but here I am. So
just do what I'm told.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, that was Air Force appreciation 3 weeks for me too. I was happy to go back to that. Well, that's cool. So you got those wings. You had a course that's really about 5 training days packed into 3 weeks worth of time.
Unfortunately,
you made it out. You made it out of Columbus, Georgia. Congratulations. And then you found yourself down at dive school. How was your experience at dive school?
It's like what I was most nervous, I'd say, which is kind of crazy after being through everything thus far.
Dude, same for me, man. Dive school was highly stressful for me. Highly.
I remember like looking at the pipeline on airforce.com, like when I was still looking at careers, and it'll say like basic training, give you a description, SWIC, description, ANS. And I was like, okay. Like,
got it.
All right, pre-dive's going to be tough. Like that's where they're really training you. But I always remember like specifically looking at combat dive and being like, oh, this is going to be the real kicker. This is what I'm most nervous for. And if I were to compare them, like they're different, pre-dive and combat dive, but I would have said pre-dive is harder overall.
Okay.
I'd say combat dive was just freaking awesome.
Yeah.
It's tough, but did
you fail anything?
Amazing.
Did you have to refire?
Ooh, I don't like to admit it. And
well, I'll tell you, I had to refire. It was the only thing in the pipeline. So I only had to refire 2 events in my entire pipeline. Like, no kidding. For whatever reason, when I was at Indoc, I was fast as crap at ditch and dawn. I could do ditch and dawn in like 10 seconds. Like it did not like, I would talk shit about ditch and dawn. Like I was pretty good in the pool. I was a water polo player. And exactly. And I would piss the instructors off because I would go down, I would do ditch and dawn, I would come right back up. And I'd be like, yeah, done. It's really not that hard.
Feel fine.
So yeah, I failed that. I had to go to like my last, like no kidding, the very last one. I went down on my first eval for ditch and dawn. I passed my pull-ups. I passed everything else. We were literally almost done with my final eval out of Indoc. I went down, put it down, came up like normal, and they were like, "Love, you failed." And I was like, "No, I didn't." And they were like, "No, we're serious. You failed." And I was like, "No, shit."
No.
So I had to come. I had to come back the next day, and a very famous chief, Ron Thompson, he just retired. RT was the one. Like I went down, I ditched it, I came up. He had to like swim over and talk to Mr. Kilbride and go, like, they had this like back and forth. And like he's like hanging on the side of the pool, and he's like looking at me and shaking his head. And they're having this really quiet conversation. And Mr. Kilbride's like, "All right, love, just go down, put it on, take your time." But it was that. And then when I got to dive school, again, fine in the pool, the first time that I went one man, I could not figure out that it was the whammy knot. And I ended up going hypoxic. And the instructor essentially had to save me. And he was like, "Dude, you failed." He was like, You asked for the regulator." And immediately I was like, "No, I did not." I was like, "Absolutely not." And he was like, "Hey there, Sergeant Love.
Yeah.
If you ask for the regulator, then you just fail. If you just had a shallow water blackout and I had to give you the regulator, we have to pull you." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I totally asked for that regulator."
There you go.
He gave me a benefit there, but I failed that. The walk back to the, from the dorms to the pool to refire my one man, that was a long walk, my friend. It was a long walk.
Yeah, I can one up you, and it took me on my third attempt for one mans, unfortunately, and those were some of the like hardest, most just stressful days. Like because you only have one shot that day to do it, and you have just the rest of the day to think about what you did wrong.
Well, and we talk about it, but you're hitting something that until you're in that space, like this is your whole life, dude. Yeah. Your whole career, everything that you've done up to that point. When people ask me what the hardest part about the pipeline is that every single day you have the chance to leave the pipeline.
Yep.
People do not understand how stressful that is and what kind of focus, laser focus you need to have, because every single day is another chance for you to leave the pipeline and to waste all of that time, all those happy phone calls with your families, all that success that you felt, all that self-doubt that you were able to overcome. Doesn't mean anything unless you can pass. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. But here you are. Here you stand wearing that new dive badge. I love it, by the way. Having our own dive badge that looks like a combat diver badge. That's
exactly awesome. Love the logo.
Love it. Shout out. Good branding, everybody. And now here we are. So what's your next step?
Yeah, so I'm just waiting to go to SRAC, which is the Special Recon Apprentice course. There is one in January coming up, so I'm not on the roster to go to that yet. There are a bunch of much better studs that have been waiting on Red Team, which is where we're at now, ahead of me. And if I do make it on there, great. I'll be super nervous for that, the next thing. But if not that one, I think I'll hit Free Fall and then SRAC in the spring. So just more time to train and get better.
Hell yeah, man. I cannot thank you enough for coming on this thing and talking to us. Let's have you back on when you graduate. We'll talk about the last half of your pipeline.
Can't wait.
If there's any of your friends, like we were talking about earlier, that want to come on and kind of do this thing, we're happy to have them on. We love talking to y'all, and we'll do our best to make sure that we get your stories out there. But thanks. Can't wait for you to keep going with your pipeline. Like, you're exactly the type of person that we're looking for to take this forward and to make sure that we're always moving that ball forward. So, man, keep crushing it, young man. You're absolutely destroying it. So thanks for coming on.
That just means so much to me. I just honestly can't believe this even just happened. So as much as you talk down sometimes about your interviewing skills or whatever, this was just above and beyond anything I expected. You guys do a great job, and thank you so much for what you do for the community and whatnot, just coming from a cone. But
hey, man, you're not a real person yet, so I'll take that feedback exactly how it's supposed to be. Thanks, everybody. Check out OnesReady.com. Hit us up in the comments section. Hit us up on the DMs. You know we're always here for you. If you got any questions, info@OnesReady.com. We'll get back to you right away. Thanks again, everybody else. Train hard. Have a good one. We out.